It's time for another tray of donuts, and today's donut is pink sprinkle donuts. I actually had a suggestion on TikTok that I make pink heart-shaped donuts, so I think that's what I'm going to attempt to make today. Since I don't have a heart-shaped cookie cutter that's small enough for these, I'm going to attempt to make them by hand. So I'm going to use my dough-colored clay and just start shaping them first into a kind of a round donut shape, and then I'll start trying to make the curves of the heart. And we'll see how that goes. I do actually have some news about this project. I decided to enter the donut case in my local county fair just for fun. I make these things and I share them online, but I thought it might be fun to enter it in a local event. But since I made that decision, it means that I have roughly 9 weeks to finish this and get it all ready to go to the fair. But I still have 10 trays of donuts that I need to create, as well as the donut boxes, because I do want some of those also. So it's really time to get to work on this, and I'm really hoping I can get it done quickly so that it's ready to go in time. And unfortunately, right now, this is not the greatest start to getting this project done because I'm struggling to form these hearts. It kind of feels like every time I get a good heart shape, I go to put the hole in the middle and it messes up the shape of the heart. This isn't working like I need it to, and so I think I need to come at this from a different perspective. So I'm going to look some stuff up and I will be right back, hopefully with a solution to this problem. All right, and I'm back and I think I have a solution. So I found this heart on Thingiverse and I shrunk it down to a very small size and I was able to print multiples of them. And it's basically just a little heart shape. It's flat on the back, but I think this will work for the purposes that I need. So to make a mold out of these, I'm going to go ahead and press them down into my silicone material. I let it sit overnight so it's fully cured. And I put multiples in there so that I can make a bunch of donuts at the same time. And hopefully that'll just kind of speed up the process. So let's go ahead and see how this works with the clay. So I'm going to take a little bit of my dough colored clay and I'm just going to press it down into each one of the molds. These silicone molds work great for baking clay directly in them. However, I need to add a hole to these hearts to make them into the donut, and they're not quite the shape that I'm wanting, so I'm going to have to pop them out of the mold before baking them, which is a little bit of a delicate process because it can change the shape of the heart as I'm trying to push it out. I also don't want to break my mold, so I'm trying to be as gentle as possible. But let's see if I can get one of these out. And then we can see how it will work for the rest of the process. All right, so I got these two out of the mold and they're still looking pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and push each one down just slightly, kind of flattening the top. And that'll give me more of the donut shape that I'm looking for. And then using my little dotting tool, I'm just gonna press it down and create a hole in the middle. And that's looking pretty good. All right, now I'm gonna take my chalk pastels. I'm just gonna go ahead and paint on the usual. I use a lot of oranges, some of my light browns, and right on top, I'll do a little bit of a red brown or a darker brown just to give it a little bit more dimension. I'm not gonna go too heavy with these because they are gonna be dipped in glaze. And one of the things I realized with the maple bars is that most of this work gets covered up by whatever glaze I'm going to dip it into. So I'm going to do some light shading on each one and just kind of keep forming them. I have my cake nail tool that I love using with sandpaper. The sandpaper will give the donut a little bit of texture as I work on it, and it also just kind of helps it hold in place while I'm shading it. And so once I get these all shaded, they'll be ready to go in the oven. So I'm just going to go ahead and work on those and get them all ready to go. All right, so I have my donuts in the oven. They're going to do their first bake, and while they're in there, I'm going to go ahead and prep the pink glaze that I'm going to use. So I have my liquid polymer clay that I put down on my little acrylic sheet, and I'm going to add some pink clay into it, as well as some clay softener, just to get it really like into that glaze consistency. And so I'll mix that all up until it's at the consistency that I want, and this is looking pretty good. And so once my donuts are ready, I will go ahead and dip them in this. So now I just need to wait for the donuts to finish in the oven, and then we'll be ready to glaze them. All right, so these donuts are going to have sprinkles on top of them, so I need to make those sprinkles first. So I'm just going to roll out this clay, and then I'll put that in the pan to bake off. Oh, you know what? I actually have an extruder tool, so I think I might try and use that and see how that works for this. So let me find that real quick. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I'm going to try this with the yellow clay first and see how the extruder works. You fill it up with clay, and then you just twist down on the bar, and it kind of pushes out the little strands. And so this looks pretty good. I think I'll do this for the color because it's much easier than rolling them all out. So I'll do each color through the extruder until I have multiple strands of each one, and then I'll bake those strands and then cut them up into little sprinkles. All right, so we have the strands baked. It's time to go ahead and cut them up. So I'm just using my X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to roughly cut them into sprinkle-sized shards, and I'll just kind of mix them all together to get a good rainbow sprinkle look going. This is going to take a while, so I'm just going to kind of focus on getting them all done and see how they all turn out. All right, here's the donuts. They're fresh out of the oven. They look great. I'm really happy with how they turned out. I did decide to put them on a larger tray. I had them on a smaller, one of the half trays originally, but that's not going to work because they're a little bit larger than I expected them to be, and so I'm going to use a larger tray for them. So I'll probably end up having to make more of these, but let's go ahead and start with this glaze. I'm going to go ahead and dip it in the pink glaze here, and I'll just kind of gently tap it down in and then pull them out. This part is always so tricky for me for some reason. I'm always dropping them and making a mess, but I got them out of there. I'm going to make sure that the hole is not filled with... I'm going to make sure the hole isn't filled with too much glaze because that does bake solid in there. So I'm going to use my little needle tool, and I'll just kind of push it in the center and clean it out just to make sure there's not too much glaze in that whole area. And now that they're dipped in glaze, I can go ahead and put them in the pan and add the sprinkles that I made earlier to each one. I thought I could maybe just drop these on them, but that's not really working. So I'm going to have to kind of individually place them one at a time, not quite like a sprinkle like I was hoping I'd be able to do, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get these all covered with enough sprinkles, and then we'll get them back in the oven for their second bake. All right, so the first round of donuts have baked, and as you can see, there's more on my tray than there were the first time. That's because the first time I baked the glaze, it came out almost translucent. I don't think I put enough pink clay in there. So then I made a second glaze. I re-dipped them, re-sprinkled them, and baked them, and that's what you're looking at now. However, I don't really like the look of these. I think the sprinkles are a little too large. They're also really round, which I don't really like. And so I think I'm going to actually start again from the beginning and try and make a new tray of donuts with smaller sprinkles. So to do that, I need to make a whole new batch of sprinkles. So I'm going to go ahead and start there. And I am going to roll these ones out by hand. The last ones I used my extruder, and I think that's what gave me the really thick kind of appearance. So I'm going to go for as thin as I can roll this clay before it breaks. And even if it does break, that's okay. I'm just going to keep rolling as thin as possible. And I'm going to go ahead and bake those off and then repeat the same process of cutting them up with my X-Acto knife, and we'll see how those turn out. So this is looking actually way better. I can already tell these are going to be good. All right, so these are baked. I'm going to go ahead and cut them all up and mix them in, and we'll see how they turn out. They're much finer, which is awesome. I can already tell just from cutting them. They're very small, which is making a huge mess on my desk, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and get them all cut up and mixed together, and then I'll kind of compare them to the first batch. So here's the first batch on the right and the second batch of sprinkles on the left. So I made a few changes. One, the size is obviously smaller. I also switched the blue color. I used a light blue clay the first time, and I just didn't really like the appearance of that blue. And so I found a brighter blue clay that I had in my collection, and I used that for the smaller ones. And I'm really pleased with how the smaller ones turned out. I think they're going to look way better on the donuts. I won't show you guys the whole process of making the donuts again because it's going to be the same exact one. I'm just going to use these sprinkles instead of the bigger ones. So let's go ahead and jump to the end, and I will show you the look of the final donuts. And here's the final look of the heart-shaped donuts. I'm very happy that I went back and changed the sprinkle size because, as you can see, I feel like it just looks way better than the first version. I have the first version here on the right and the second version, the final version, on the left. So the ones on the left will be the ones that go into the case. The other ones I'll give to my son for his collection. He likes to have miniatures that I make that I don't plan on using, so he takes a lot of my mess ups because he doesn't care. So those will be his. This one will go in the case, and that's the final pink heart sprinkle donuts. I hope you guys like them. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you are so you can follow along while I finish making all the donuts for the case. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.